First of all, there's nothing that I have seen, and I've watched a lot of YouTube content out there for business owners that's from the perspective that they're going to get from you and I, especially a bank CEO. I don't know any bank CEOs that are talking about what they know about businesses in a open format like this.
No, and I think a little bit closer to the small businesses because I've spent 20 years and I still review financials of commercial loans.
Yes.
And see different industries, how they play, the margins and everything. And they all have commonalities. And so I know what we're looking for.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be probably the most important part that they're going to get from this, because I would say on probably a daily, if not a weekly basis, you're looking at new financials of businesses and you're judging whether they have the ability to lend to them, what their expansion looks like. I mean, you're looking at the heart and soul of a business.
Oh, absolutely.
A new one every week.
Even after the fact. So, I mean, we, depending on the size of the loan, we have annual financials come in. We have annual reviews of them because if there's a decline, we risk rate it.
That's right.
And set aside funds if we see this. It may tee us off to a certain industry, especially right now that we have, could be a pending collapse in real estate market or the stock market. How does that come down to our loans?
That's right. And you see all that like play out. You saw that when we had the pandemic and the PPP came through. I mean, you're in there with your current clients in their financials, looking at what are they going to do and having these conversations and helping them through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's super valuable. And from my side, I'm working with clients all the time. They're coming to me with questions like, how can we be more efficient? How can we build systems around what we're doing so that we can scale up? We want to grow. We're, 2-3 million in revenue. We want to go to 50.
Before that, I mean, I find a lot of people don't even know their numbers.
Oh yeah.
They don't even know their actual sales, they may have their sales and they don't realize what they're charging, that they're actually losing money.
Yeah. And it's mainly because they're there operating their business. They're there doing the work. Back to the systems part, which is part of what I'm doing, is helping them to pull themselves out, create a team that can work efficiently for them. And, the rising tide lifts all boats. It helps the vendors that they're using. It helps the employees that they're employing to increase morale. I mean, all these things. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is strategy, setting strategy, helping them, look forward, creative, set a vision, and actually come up with strategic business goals and objectives to implement. And then on the implementation side is, what does that marketing sales plan look like and who's going to execute on it, right? Yeah. So if I'm looking at all these things, you're looking at financials, and our worlds are overlapping because
they do.
What I'm looking at from a strategic side,
they have to
from a nuts and bolts side.
They have to overlap. I mean, there's time invested in strategic side.
That's right.
Even though some of the strategic has, one set amount of cost, it still has a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And, individual owner has got to, recognize that and know how much time they're putting into it. And also, not everything happens immediately. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure you're going to have them stay the course and give things sufficient time.
That's right.
Without jeopardizing their business at the same time. And, you've seen different markers of, okay, let's pivot and let's try different.
That's right. So I think what would be good, since we've already kind of jumped into this cold, is just a quick introduction. I'll introduce myself, Lee Murray, Harvard Business. Harvard Business? No, I'm actually taking a Harvard Business School course online right now, so it's on my brain. But Harvard Murray Consulting is my company, business growth strategist, and working with generally mid-market companies, helping them scale up and working on the things I just mentioned. And so, my part of it that I'm bringing to the table is really from an advisory standpoint. I have the benefit of sitting on the outside of a lot of businesses and observing. So I see a lot of mistakes. I see a lot of successes and across industry too. I mean, everything from, now I'm actually talking to a trucking accessory company here locally near Orlando to like federally qualified medical centers. Like I've seen the whole gamut of companies, and I'm able to, see what has worked and what hasn't worked from executive level all the way down to, the newest hire on the team. So I love what I do, and I love giving advice. I love learning and then educating people on what it is. So, me being part of this is just gonna be fun for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Lee. I always enjoy conversations with you. And I'm Ryan James, President and CEO of Surety Bank. We're primarily a commercial bank. We're community bank. We get involved in our local community and our community of our customers. And we've got, unique customer set. I've been a CEO since 2009, right? As soon as the fallout happened, it was the best and worst time to become a CEO. With the collapse of banking. That was the largest banking collapse in 2009, going back to the 1980s scandals and
That's right.
even further back. So that was a definitely interesting part. I'm glad that hit me early in my career. But primarily the first half of the career was commercial lending and being the financial officer for Surety Bank. So what I really like about my position is not only is banking, is a lot of different businesses under one roof, that can complement one another, not just banking, but, we run it like a business. Mm-hmm. And I get to see the gamut of businesses just like that, whether it's a trucking company that is delivering agriculture, companies that just that provide services, remote companies that are actually producing a hard good. And, it's just awesome. It keeps me entertained because I like to jump from one thing to another.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. You and I have worked together for a long time, so I've gotten to see a lot of behind the scenes, how you work, how you think, and it's all very valuable stuff. And I would say to pull out of that, what I've noticed the most is that you do operate your bank as a business. So you think more like an entrepreneur than a business, than a bank CEO. And that's the value I think that's going to come through on this show.
I mean,
I'm getting choked up.
I hear that, but I'm still amazed. Every bank is a business. You've got to provide a great service and you got to watch your costs. But I don't understand. When I started in banking, there was 15,000 banks back in 2001. Yeah. 21 years later, there's less than 5,000 banks in the U.S.
Right.
And it's astonishing. The best thing about, one of the best things about United States financial system is the amount of banks at headquarters, because you don't see that in other countries. Mm-hmm. And middle and small banks are what is driving middle businesses throughout the nation.
That's right.
So,
yeah, and I think it'd be good too to give the viewer more background to kind of delineate in their mind like the full breadth of what you are doing here. Not just community focused and helping local businesses and consumers, but working on the fraud or compliance side of money service business. Why don't you talk about that for a minute? Actually, Ryan has his own podcast called Paper Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, wherever, where he interviews people and talks at length and at depth with experts in that whole side. So kind of give a summary for what that looks like, because that's a big part of your business.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, we taking deposits from consumers, from businesses. So commercial lending is a huge part of our business, but we've expanded too, and that is a part of a lot of our local community, that small businesses throughout our counties where our physical branches are located. But we also have a community of what they're called as non-bank financial institutions. These are licensed money transmitters across the nation. They may be known as check cashers or payday lenders, but this is a subset of that give financial products to 60 million people in the U.S. That was the latest study I saw. So 60 million people utilize these services. Yeah. And so what we do is it's very difficult for banks to be within the community. The economies of scale is much harder. So we facilitate products to help the businesses that are already in the communities. They're providing the services to the unbanked and the underbanked. And in order to do that, we have to be up on our regulations, because that industry has been villainized. And they're awesome. They haven't gone away. And these are salt-of-the-earth businesses that live in their communities and providing services. Yeah. So, that's a big section of our business.
Yes. So lots to come, I think, from both sides. Hopefully the audience can take advantage of what we've seen. It's, I think, part of what we know. Obviously, we've been doing this a long time.
And this carries over because
really like experience.
What we don't really know too is, if you think of a check casher or another company to go in and get a money order, whether it's in a gas station or standalone businesses, you think it's just consumers cashing a check. No, these are businesses that are underbanked in their community that they need to get the funds immediately so they can make payroll.
That's a good point.
So, you can have a good business
Yeah.
and your good business fail. And the primary driver for that is from cash flow. And so there are places out there and, there are needs and it's not going away.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should address some of that here as time goes on. But I know you address it in depth on the paper podcast, but I think maybe we should hit on that a little bit because you're all right. You are right. There is an overlap of a certain percentage of business owners that are utilizing those services. So I think that's something that we should consider.
And we're seeing large growth.
And to that point, who is this for? So really this is for entrepreneurs that are just getting started that are kind of green to owning a business. They have maybe some experience, business owners that have been in business for 20 years that have a lot of experience. It's really just for us to share the things that we've seen, both successes, failures of other business owners, the things that we know. We're drawing from being business owners and having made a lot of mistakes. So it's for that small to mid-sized business owner and potentially CEO that's been brought in to run a small business or acquired, just to take it for what it's worth. But we want to put it out there and make it free, make it available. And I think fill a gap. There's a lot of books, there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of everything out there for the small business owner. But I think from the vantage point that we're coming from, it could be valuable. Let me check my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything. Let's see, who's it for, what we're going to cover. We're going to try to talk about everything. We're going to talk a lot about financials because,
they're part of every business.
They're part of every business and it's a core component. But, we have you here that looks at financials, has looked at, however many, probably hundreds of thousands of financials at this point. So we're going to utilize that resource. We're going to talk about marketing and sales. That's a strong suit of mine. Systems. We're going to talk about, hiring and firing. And we're going to talk about
what to do when the new 88,000 IRS agents are trained and coming after you.
Good Lord. Yeah. And now, there's a new, proposal out for ratcheting down on the gig economy, the freelancer. I don't know if you've seen that. It's being proposed. It could really, really hurt the Ubers of the world and even smaller businesses like mine who we utilize some contractors and freelancers to do some work. So
you can go over the hashtag quietly quitting.
Yes,
which
there's always something that's going on, and we'll try to cover some of those things more topically. But yeah, so kind of broadly, all those different topics. We want to keep it interesting for you, but also for us. And I'd say what's to come is we want to share with you some of our experiences. We'll probably, some of these first initial episodes will probably just be us here talking to each other, and hopefully you can get some value from that. But soon we want to bring on local business owners, right? And then even some virtually. We have a platform we can bring them in virtually and interview them and ask them about what are their what's their idea of how to best utilize debt in their business? What's their best, their ideas about partnerships,
cash flow,
everything,
future growth. Yeah.
Right. So as we get going, we're not sure where you're going to come into this episode. If you've watched a few and now you're watching the intro, or this is the first one, we're always going to be checking the comments. So even if you leave a comment, it's been 2 years, leave a comment and let us know, topics that we haven't covered, you want us to cover, specific things, broad topics. We want to get to it all. And if you're interested in coming on the show, if you're a business owner and you have some unique, cool stories that we want to tell about successes, failures, whatever, we'd love to, entertain that.
And there's a lot of misconceptions on banking or with expectations. So, there's nothing that I won't answer.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited. Just sit here and talk shop, So that's what we're going to do, and head on over to episode 1.
All right.